Which scene in a film disturbed you the most? In Return to Oz, where the girl is strapped to the table and when you see all those freestanding heads lining the walls. That movie is one of the most trippy and fucked up movies, and it boggles my mind that it was marketed to children. Those motorcycle guys freak me out the most for some reason. Beware the Wheelers. Zodiac. When he's stabbing the couple at Lake Berryessa. The lack of any music while hearing their screams is disturbing. The movie did an accurate job with portraying everything based from the witness, survivor accounts. There's audio of the boyfriend that survived that stabbing and the 911 operator who spoke to the killer, as well as a reading of the mother who was picked up by him, and they all say he was calm and well-spoken. That alone creeps the fuck out of me. Also one of the last scenes in the basement. Event Horizon. The hell recording showing terrible things. I don't believe in supernatural stuff, but that scene sticks with me. I saw Event Horizon one afternoon in an almost empty theater. There was another lone guy sitting a few rows ahead of me. A couple of times during the movie he turned around and made some comment to me about how scary it was, almost like he needed not to feel alone. He finally got up and left. There is a rumor that there were lots more scenes like that recorded and may be coming out in a different cut of the movie. Apparently those scenes were just too scary. I hope that happens. Video ends, we're leaving. The movie The Lobster stands out to me. Spoilers, disturbing, suicide warning. The premise, from what I remember, of the movie is society mandates marriage. If you don't marry, you are sent to a hotel, where you have 30 days to meet your spouse. If you don't, you are turned into an animal. First would be when a depressed lady was introduced and tries to get with the main character, cause she only had a few days left to partner up. She mentions she might kill herself if she doesn't, but is worried cause her room is only on the 3rd or 4th floor. A few scenes later the main character is having some serious dialogue with a lady who is known for being cruel and heartless, whom he is trying to court. The lady from earlier, at this point, jumps out her window and is visibly bleeding out and screaming in agony just feet away from the two in dialogue. Because he is acting cruel to impress this other lady and she is pretty evil to begin with, they completely ignore what just happened. I kid you not, it's like a nearly 2-minute scene of serious dialogue while this lady is in the background dying in pain. More spoilers, and then later in the movie she kills his dog who is also his brother. Such a disturbingly wacky movie. The movie totally knocks the social commentary out of the park, but it is hard to enjoy. I was legitimately under the impression that movie was a comedy. At least the first half. Oh, probably the scene in Hannibal where Anthony Hopkins cooks the guy's brain and feeds it to him. Same movie, different scene, when the disformed guy remembers Hannibal giving him poppers, and then a piece of glass with instructions to escape now if you want to, cut his own face and feed it to the dogs. It didn't leave me for years. The longer I get from this scene I feel better. We were soldiers when they carpet-bombed too close and several soldiers caught on fire. Then when they lifted up the guy and his legs peeled. Less graphic, but that scene where the two guys are in a foxhole in the dark and one guy mentions being able to smell the enemy, followed by an illumination round being fired over them and you see they are surrounded by NVA, was nuts. The scene in the original Pet Sematary where the old guy gets his Achilles tendon cut from the little kid under the bed. I always checked under the bed after that. Yes. 12 years old me saw that movie and that scene was just too much. My parents had a long history of letting my brother and I watch inappropriate movies. My mom let me show Pet Sematary at my 8th or 9th B-Day party. I had already seen it several times and two little girls went home crying. The scene in RoboCop when Murphy was murdered. I was much more disturbed when Emil was staggering around half melted because of the toxic waste, moaning for someone to help him or kill him. End communication. There's an 80s, 90s horror movie called When a Stranger Calls Back. All the spoilers. In the movie, the killer is a ventriloquist who can throw his voice. In the end scene, the protagonist is in a room with the killer, and can hear him but she can't see him. He has painted himself to look like the wall. This scene impacted me for many years. As a single woman living alone, I would walk around my house, trailing my hand along the wall to make sure no one had painted themselves to match my wall. There's a scene in a horror thriller film called Mirrors. The plot is basically there's another dimension in anything reflective, and they're evil for the most part. It's been over a decade since I've seen it, I'm sure. Where a woman looks at her reflection in the mirror before getting in the bath, as she leaves the mirror, her reflection remains there. Couple of minutes later, she's chilling in the bath and the mirror version of her just starts ripping its own jaw open, which in turn forces the woman's jaw open in the bath, and she cannot do anything about it to stop it and just has to let her jaw get torn to shreds as the bathtub fills with blood. It is brutal. OMG, I forgot about that one. Yup, terrifying. That's is a good scene. Movie was pretty mediocre otherwise, but they did good on that part. This movie made me terrified to look into mirrors for like 6 months. I literally ducked any time I had to pass a mirror because I was terrified my evil self was going to rip my jaw open like that. There's a scene from the movie The Road where the father and his son discover a room full of chained, naked people waiting to be eaten by the cannibals living in the house, and then they run away and they get chased by the cannibals. That scene really traumatized me when I was young. I remember crying so hard when I watched that movie. The scene I always remember the most was when they were hiding in the bathroom and he pulled out his gun with his one bullet and held it to his son's head because he knew that if they were discovered that it was the only thing he could do. Not the most classically disturbing imagery, but being a father myself I think about that scene a lot. It was a great film, but I would likely not watch it again. That was terrifying in the book. I don't think I want to see the film. I heard on a science podcast that keeping those people alive would require a lot of food. Pragmatically, the cannibals would eat that food themselves instead of wasting it on human cattle. But I get why it was written into the story. It was a nasty, shocking scene. Never saw the movie, but when I read the book this scene fucked me up for a few days. I still think about it sometimes. I think the worst part is when they are hiding after their escape and have to listen the screams and yelling coming from inside the house. The ending of We Need to Talk About Kevin, where the kid, spoiler warning, murders his little sister and dad before shooting up a school. I was about 10 or younger I think when I saw it, so I think that's why it stuck with me, but it's the scene from Pan's Labyrinth where the dad just bashes some soldier's face in with a wine bottle. Edit: when I say dad I mean the main girl's father, the commander, psychopathic soldier. Looking back, it wasn't a soldier's face, but the son of father who were out rabbit hunting. Ugh, I watched this movie again recently and I still hate that scene. I remember going to Hollywood Video and seeing signs disclaiming that this is not a children's movie. Apparently you were not the only kid who saw it and thought it was going to be like the Labyrinth movie with David Bowie and Jennifer Connelly. Made that scene at the end so damn cathartic too. Edit: it's actually even worse, it was an innocent man, not a soldier. The scene where the thing picked up his eyes with his hands disturbed me so much. I'm sorry, but Black Swan, when she has skin at the edge of nail and she pulls it. Fuck no. I tend to pick at my cuticles when I'm feeling anxious and I felt this scene. The baby scene in Trainspotting. My mom has always been great at picking out important details or slight foreshadowing in films, and I vividly remember watching this with her for the first time, and shortly before that scene with the characters all in the apartment, but well before you become aware of the baby's death, she looked at me and said, "Oh fuck," the baby stopped crying. Still sticks with me. Edit: as you, Staff Safapath, and some mild independent research pointed out, my mom and I are wrong by both the book and film. Unless there is a director's cut or something I'm unaware of, the general agreement in the other comments makes me think this might be a result of the Mandela effect. This was so horrifying to me at the time because I was so young when I watched it, but the last scene in Cannibal Holocaust where the cannibals assaulted and attacked one of the film crew has just stayed with me since. Wasn't there some sort of investigation because the movie * seemed too realistic? Fuck man, that movie is as real as it gets. Obviously it's all fake except when they killed the animals on scene, but it's represented realistically. For me it was when they killed the turtle. I turned it off and to this day never finished the movie and don't want to. In 7, the guy in the sex club recounting what the murderer made him do with a strap-on saw blade. His screaming about what he made him do. That was the worst scene from 7. I went to bed after watching it, and my mind kept revisiting that horrible Polaroid. Incredibly disturbing. What haunts my mind from that scene is the Polaroid. Seeing the knife, imagining what happened, and hearing the poor dude's breath getting so shaky made me actually cry. So funny story, that was the first movie that made me lose sleep. I was only about 10 when that movie came out and we rented it. My family. For movie night. This before internet trailers and none of us knew what it was about. I remember it being like 3 a.m. and I was just laying in my bed. I get up to get a drink of water and my dad is sitting in the living room. Not sleeping or watching TV, just sitting in the dark. He looks at me, can't sleep. Me, nope dad, fucked up me, fucked up. The first time I ever swore in front of my dad was the F-bomb and neither one of us cared. Yeah, that's a scene that sticks with you. Really effective way of storytelling and great acting. Final scene of The Mist with Thomas Jane. All for nothing. Such a great movie moment. I think I read somewhere that when Stephen King read the script's ending for approval that he said if he wrote the book today it would have the film's ending. The brave little toaster when the vacuum sucks up his own cord. I will never vacuum over a cord. Same movie for me, but I was a kid, and the scene was the air conditioner's suicide. Or Toaster's nightmare. Or the car that willingly kills itself in the junkyard. This whole movie is just sad. I used to love it when I was a kid. The D-Day landing scenes in Saving Private Ryan, especially when they give you some context to the characters in the boat before the landing itself, and as soon as the platform drops they all get shot up to pieces. And then the scene showing the soldier walking around with his blown-off arm and all the other soldiers in the other boats blown up and getting caught on fire. It's just a super sad movie man, and just knowing that people went through horrible experiences like this. Addition, there are so many amazing responses and replies to my comment. I would just like to add that there are so many horrific and saddening stories from the people that had to experience the atrocities of war. I would like to add another movie that really moved me and had me feeling shock and sadness was Hacksaw Ridge, particularly the scene in which Desmond Doss is on the ridge and he sees a squad of Japanese soldiers going around and killing any wounded Americans that they can find. I couldn't imagine the mental toll it had to take on him to witness his brothers in arms paying the ultimate price like that while fighting for his life himself. This is going to be my last edit to this comment. I would like for you to all have a great day, and please, if you ever have the opportunity, show some gratitude towards any veteran or currently enlisted soldier. Absolutely this, especially that part when the platform dropped. I felt depressed for days after that movie because of the D-Day part. The eye-sewing shenanigans in Coraline. That movie was the horror movie for kids. I hear the book is even more horrifying. I agree. Absolutely terrifying. This animated movie has this dark horror gothic tone that didn't fail to give me nightmares the first time I saw it. For me it's the opening scene, where we see the other mother making the Coraline doll. Something about the way the animation looked, combined with the music, disturbed me. That scene in Pinocchio where the boy turns into a donkey. Right? And that's never addressed. The country's entire population of young boys is being kidnapped, experiencing ultimate body horror, and then being sold into slavery. And at the end of the movie all of that is still happening. Nobody is rescuing those kids. Geppetto doesn't give a crap, because he's got his real boy. Why isn't Jiminy Cricket screaming in Pinocchio's ear about the donkey holocaust? For me it's a toss-up between that and the whale with freaking human teeth. The 40s were weird. Spoiler alert for The Thing 1982, one of the researchers, Norris, gets infected by the extraterrestrial being and had started replicating him from the inside. Dr. Cooper attempts to revive him after Norris gets a heart attack, being unaware of the infection. As he is about to use the defibrillator, the extraterrestrial bites his arms off and Norris's body gets severed into pieces and each part develops legs of its own as the Thing tries to replicate his body. Disgusting stuff. In case you are interested, here's a link to the clip skip to 112. The Thing was truly a film ahead of its time. The practical effects hold up to this day, which the 2011 prequel couldn't even match with CGI. Still find it baffling that the reviews upon the initial release was mostly negative. Great cast performance, effective soundtrack, and an excellent blend of science fiction, body horror, and psychological thriller made it a masterpiece.